But it's quite clear that starting with the sun virus, we would have given this sun virus a chance. And not only one chance, we would have given it hundreds of billions of possibilities to stop what the sun virus does, which is obviously always kind of enslavement of other living beings. We would have given this sun virus, and we do, thousands of possibilities, billions every day, to change. And maybe not to change into better or worse. I think it's a quality change of stopping to think in binary and starting to not, yes, not, I don't know, think in our system or our way of doing things that we do outside of this kind of prison, encapsulated world. I don't know if you have worked through Dunbar or Dunbar, the scientist who found out about the limit of people or individuals that can be together or even at view range. So it was like 100, I think I can remember, about monkeys, and more than 100 monkeys in a community, or another group of monkeys close to a community of 100 would trigger a list, would start a list of things, starting with stress, nervosism, violence, attacks, and then going into brutal violence, assassination, prostitution, kidnapping, rape, cannibalism, terrible. And from there on it would go into all the illnesses we know, all illnesses from cancer to Alzheimer, whatever. I mean, what you name it, it's on the list. And finally, we would find that this community of monkeys would just, I mean, destroy itself and come to an end with few members in a very, very bad state and shape, and completely useless, unable to feed themselves, and so on. So this limit is 100 individuals, I think it was, for monkeys. And he made the same experiments with other organisms, and they have changing numbers depending on how they behave, what they do, what work they have to do, or how they have to move. If they travel a lot, horses have more individuals because they travel, and cats are around 16, and then the ants are around, depending on what kind of ant we are talking about, maybe let's say 15 to 20,000. Others can reach 3 to 400,000. But humans, and this is incredible, humans can only form a group of 250 at its best. We can make it bigger, yes, we can obviously, but if we do it, then the list starts, the bad list starts. The terror list starts. It's not bad, it's terror. The destruction, it's not nice. So maybe when we come back we are not so many. And maybe we are 1, 2, 3 or 4 or 5 for each city or place that is now a city. Because the Masons, Freemasons know these points. And from then on, procreation is absolutely necessary for the Freemasons, but not for us. So this means that we are probably pushed from there on into reproduction, into consuming food and liquids. I don't think it's absolutely necessary when we reappear, but it's like eating the apple in paradise. Once you've eaten it, I mean, you have to keep on eating. So it looks like that, and that the Masons or Freemasons have it very well planned. From there on, they know what they have to do, how to push us into a kind of fast reproduction. They put us together as fast as they can. They grow first some cities, and from these cities on, they occupy the rest of the territory, which is like, you know, this far west, no? The far west in America. They had to occupy the territory again. This is funny because then we find the Indians that there were, and there were in the millions. So maybe the Indians were survivors from the flood. Maybe the Indians knew about the flood and survived by going up into the mountains in caves. I don't know, it's from now on everything is possible. Now that we know that they built the places looking to Sirius, Canis Major, because they have to be the first to arrive, dig out the houses and then control. So that's how they can own all the land. I mean, here in where I live, Andalusia, Spain, you see that there's one family that owns 68% of the territory. I mean, Andalusia is not a small place. Andalusia, I don't know how big it is compared to maybe it's like, I don't know, Texas, or I'm not quite sure, but it's big. It's really big. I mean, how can one person own 68% of this? So the only way is that they occupy it first and then just say, that's mine because that's the story, that's the history, come eat it, and that's it. They go away with it, because who can prove the contrary? Who can tell them that, hey, wait a moment, you came when, now we could, no. But we have to find more evidence for that. And if we find the evidence, we can take them to court, and we can take everything away from them. Obviously, you would say, that's stupid, why should we go to court? I mean, the judges are all, I mean, if they are so powerful, I don't know. I don't know if they're still as powerful as they say or were, because things have changed. Things have changed a lot. Well, let's come back to our point. Let's think about the Dunbar limit, 250, and that's why they built the city, so we would be debile, we would be fatigued from the first moment on. They would put more than 500, 600, 700 kids together, and they also put them directly into factories. And once the kids are like 8, 9 years old, they take them out of the factories and use them for procreation as fast as possible. Would you remember that? I mean, would you really remember what if you had sex with 8 years? If it's like, I mean, like a game or something, like, you wouldn't know. Even then, I mean, And then all of a sudden we have children and fathers and mothers and then and so on. I mean, this could be very fast. Would be, let's say, we appear 3 or 4 years after the flooding. 8 years later we have kids. 11 years later we would be grandparents. This is fast. This would explain so many stories about all these very young marriages or kids that had kids. And nowadays we were like surprised. We'd say, wow, 7-year-old has a kid. How can this work? I mean, and now it's like a crime. And then it was a crime. It was even the biggest crime possible. But who would remember it? There was nobody to protest. I mean, just look at languages. Languages are so ridiculously simple. They are stupid. You can learn a language. You can learn two. There are people who speak, I don't know, how many? 10 languages, 15, 20? Polyglot. I mean, a language with more than 20,000 years or 10,000 years or 5,000 years would be so so incredibly complex and beautiful that you couldn't learn more than the basics in 50, 60 years of studying it. Now look at the languages. Are they so difficult? I mean, everybody can learn another language. And in 5 to 10 years come to a certain perfection. I wouldn't say, let's see, I speak now perfectly Spanish and I learned to speak perfectly German. And maybe I could come to a perfection in English. That makes 3 languages then. 3. 3 in what? In 35 or 40 years? If languages would really be old, very old, ancient, or come from ancient roots, it would be much more complex and much more powerful than the languages we are using now. With certain exceptions, there are some words that sometimes have a certain power, but mostly it's just vowels and consonants packed together. English is the perfect language, not for communication, it's the perfect language for military. They developed English because they just changed Rome for Londres. London. Londinum. All this bullshit about the Roman Empire, I mean, that's ridiculous. They used Rome as the center because then they used the religion as a way of conquering. Then they left, and the next flood meant that London would be the new center of the world for them. And they needed a language this time to have strong military arms, and basically one strong military arm all over the world. And now if you compare, let's say, an American or an English, or let's say an American instructor, because English, an American instructor, a sergeant drilling, how fast is the English language when it comes to military tactics and orders and commands? It's perfect. It's perfect. I mean, try to explain in German or in French or in Italian something to your troop with, you know, you have like lots of declinations. You have nominative, dative, accusative, and genitive, and even more. You have all these possibilities of changing a verb with depending on the person who is talking. Yo hablo, tú hablas. I speak, you speak. In English it's just the same. In Spanish it would be totally different. In German, ich spreche, du sprichst. I mean it's totally different. So personal pronouns in English it's just the same verb all over again. I do, you do, he do, does, okay. We do, you do, they do. So listen to this in Spanish. Yo hago, tú haces, él hacen, nosotros hacemos, vosotros hacéis, y ellos o ellas hacen. See the difference? I need a lot more time. Or in German, like, okay, what did we say? To do. Ich mache, du machst, er macht, wir machen, ihr macht, sie machen. German comes a bit closer. I mean, German comes a bit closer. It's probably a bit faster. But it's not enough. English is perfect for drilling. Then they needed English too, because that's the only language where you can convert all this binary, useless view of the world into a binary computer system. You cannot program a computer if it's not in English. I mean, many have tried, but they failed. They cannot compete with English. For binary systems, English is perfect. It's black and white. That's it. There you go. Stop. You don't need time. You just do it. It's binary. So English was invented or prepared or fixed into the society as the main language for military and technology